what used to be the most challenging thing is building an app now became the easiest thing. Now, everyone can build an app, but the hard part is finding users. The things I'm going to share might be very addicting. So if you care about your sleep and you don't want to find yourself vibe coding at 3 a.m. in the morning, you need a lot of self-discipline to not end up like me.
Rick is an ex-project manager, CMO, startup consultant, turned vibe coder. He's an entrepreneur, a self-proclaimed idea person, and he is now teaching founders and agencies how to use AI, and he's building apps just by talking to it. You might have met him at last summer's Vibecoding meetups in Bansko, and now he's back here to turn your ideas into reality. Welcome on stage, Rick.
Well, hello everyone. Vibecoding for idea people. Quick check. I'm assuming everyone here is an idea person, otherwise you wouldn't have clicked on the title, Vibecoding for idea people, but I want to have a quick check. So raise your hands if you see yourself as an idea person. Okay, that's almost the whole room. That's exactly what I expected. I also have to give a quick disclaimer that the things I'm going to share might be very addicting. So if you care about your sleep and you don't want to find yourself vibe coding at 3 a.m. in the morning, you need a lot of self-discipline to not end up like me. Who was at the longevity talk yesterday at the main stage from Maria? So yeah, Maria was talking about Hustler Rick, same name. I think she kind of used me as a persona. And she said Hustler Rick is living on coffee and cortisol and is vibe coding until 3 a.m. That's why I'm giving you the disclaimers. But yeah, let's get into this because I'm sharing how I go from idea to app and what I've been learning over the last year of vibe coding and turning my ideas into reality. And the talk is called, if you can define it, you can build it. And that's the whole premise. Nowadays, you don't really need to learn to code. If you can define it, you can build it. So today we're launching a startup because I can share all my tools, I can share all my frameworks, but it's much more fun if I can actually take you through a journey of how we do this. So it's not going to be my startup, it's going to be our startup, and by the end of the talk, you'll understand what I mean with that. I've always seen myself as an idea person, and I've had this growing list in my Apple Notes, later Notion, which was growing and growing and growing and full of ideas, but there was always been an excuse why I did not build this idea. Until now. And I went through that list. I was thinking what ideas actually suit the audience that I'm going to be talking about, and a few came up. Visa deadlines is a typical nomad problem. Where to actually find good Wi-Fi in new towns is a nomad problem. But then I realized, hey, I've been living in Bansko for the last few months, but I barely know which nomads are around. And I want to know who is around and who is interested in what. So today, during the talk, I'm going to take this example and use my frameworks to build the idea together. But first, let's take a step back, because my idea started coming about 10 years ago when I wanted to start building and creating. But 10 years ago, 2017, I had an idea, but I thought I needed a business partner. 2018, I had an idea, but I didn't know how to build it. 2019, I had an idea, but I was working at an agency, a web development agency, as a project manager, and I knew that I needed 100K, 75,000 euros, to actually get started, because we had clients that came to us, and yeah, we needed 6 to 8 weeks plus a team of 6 to 8 people to actually turn their request into reality. 2020 comes, still have a lot of ideas, but the world is shut down. Then suddenly it's 2021. I have an idea, but I'm building someone else's idea. 2022, I have ideas, but someone else already did it, I tell myself. And then it's 2023, I have an idea, and we actually started building it, but I got screwed over by a business partner. So still, at 0. 2024, I had an idea, and yeah, I invested everything I had into someone else's ideas. So couldn't invest in developers anymore. Which is when I actually considered learning to become a developer, even though I have a marketing background. But then 2025 arrived. I'm working as a CMO at a startup, and I learned about vibe coding. So I quit my job, came to Bansko, and started vibe coding. 2026, right now, and in the last 6 months, I've shipped or created 10 apps over the last 6 months. Now, I'm here to share to you today what is the exact process that I use to go from idea, which you see in the top corner, to actually turning that into a PRD, into an MVP, and into users. Now, I'll explain what these exact terms mean, so you don't have to guess. The things over these last 10 years, the one thing that changed was I didn't learn to code, even though I considered it, but I learned that if you can define it, you can build it. And this is the general framework that we will be using. So we're going from idea to create to grow. I call this ICG, and in each of these steps, I will share the exact steps that I use so that you can do exactly the same. Talking is the new typing. For me, it took a little while to actually get used to this. It felt kind of weird to be talking to my phone, but once I really got used to it, it changed my life. Tools like WhisperFlow, Super Whisper, Granola, or anything else. And talking is the new typing makes such a difference because you get 5 to 10x more outputs and way more context in your AI to then actually turn that into the next step, a PRD. So step 1, we have an idea. When I get an idea, I like to go for a walk because at my desk, an idea is just an idea, but if I go for a walk and I turn on my transcriber tool, I can just brain dump it all. And I tell myself, I go for a walk 5, 10, 20 minutes, and I just brain dump it all. And while walking, more ideas come in around that thing, and it doesn't have to be structured. I just dump, dump, dump. Big brain dump, you get the idea, you go for a walk, you talk for 10 to 20 minutes, and boom. You've done your brain dump, and that's what you can then later feed into an AI. What the brain dump sounds like or could look like for the idea that we're going to be building for the app to know who's in town, I'll do a quick brain dump. So, okay, I'm in Bansko, I want to know who's around, I'm interested in cold plunging, I'm interested in going to the gym, we just have a new calisthenics park, so I want to find friends that do calisthenics. I want to know who is around, so we'll need to know what dates those people are there, so whenever someone signs up, they have to let me know who is around, and I then want an announcement channel where I can post when I'm going to the cold plunge, when I'm going to do a workout, so I can find friends in the community that join me for this. Brain dump, done. Then we turn that into a PRD. The PRD is a product requirement document, and it's basically the bridge to go from idea to actual app. Many people skip this, and that's where it might go wrong if you're vibe coding, because if you haven't defined exactly what you want, then the AI might start hallucinating, making up different features, and that's why the PRD exists. And I personally think this is the most important document for anyone who wants to build something. So we had our brain dump, and then we're going to define the PRD. We put the brain dump into an AI, and I do have a PRD generator. I'll share the link in the last slide, where you could just put your whole transcript that you just transcribed into the generator, and you get a whole document defining what the AI should build and what the AI should not build. And that's very important, because if you don't do this, it's going to go its own way, and after a while, you just don't know what it created. And maybe a fun side story, when I arrived in Bansko, quit my job last year in May, I'm like, okay, I'm going to build this platform. It's called vibecode.fun. I want to build a product hunt for vibe coders. And I started building, been building for like 3 weeks, until suddenly I hit a wall, and I have bugs everywhere. Even though I had an implementation plan and I had a PRD, my AI was still creating the things that it thought it had to create instead of creating the things that I asked it to create. So I had 2 options. Either I start over or I fix the bugs. And luckily, I chose the first. Luckily, I chose to start over because bug fixing would have taken me way longer. So I built the exact same platform in 48 hours again. First, it took me 3 weeks. Then I knew exactly what I wanted. I defined it. And in 48 hours, I built something better with no bugs. So that's defining it. The PRD is the bridge, and it tells the AI what to build and what not to build. Once we've done that, we can go to the build phase. So we already went from idea to PRD, and now we're going to build the app. The PRD could look like this. So this is a very simplified version of the PRD. So we have the brain dump. I never know who's in town or how to connect. That turns into the problem. The problem is nomads miss each other. There's no really a single place to see who's around or to connect by interests. Then who is the users? Well, it's nomads arriving in town, starting in Bansko. And the features would be the dates. When is this nomad in town? Interest match group chats, a town hall channel, and browsable profiles so I could connect with other people. The PRD is ready, Bounce Connect, dates and interests, and auto-matching chats, a town hall, and profiles. So defining is the step many people skip, and that's why many people say, vibe coding is great, you can quickly do something, but bugs, bugs, bugs. And I hear a lot of developers say this too. Yes, yes, vibe coding, but bugs. But honestly, if you define it, then you might avoid these bugs. Also, AI has been getting better, so fixing bugs goes faster. Once we've had the PRD, we go to our AI tool of choice, and we say, hey, use this PRD document to build this app. And the AI is going to start doing things. It's going to ask you some questions. For example, if you want authentication, if you want to host it on your own domain, if you want to add a database for the profiles, that's exactly what we need. So you say yes, and you give some API keys for whoever. So more than half of the people that have been vibe coding don't have a background. That's great. So the AI has been building, the app is live, or at least locally, and then you plug it into a real domain, hosting, and you didn't have to code. All you had to do was answering some questions, because you defined exactly what you wanted. Now, the toolbox that you use, you don't have to use all the latest tools. Not at all. I personally got started with Claude or with ChatGPT, and I still use these tools right now, but mainly to brainstorm. So if I have an idea, I go to ChatGPT, mainly Claude, and I say, hey, this is my idea. I maybe even put in the brain dump that I did, and then I say, hey, now ask me some questions and poke some holes in the ideas so that we even better define what we're actually going to build. And many times it comes up with super ideas, like it makes it much better. But then to build, I use Claude Code or Codex. But I'm not telling you you have to go and learn these tools. You gotta find the tool that suits your purpose. If you just want to build a landing page, you could just as well use Replit or Lovable. But if you want to build more complex things, then I recommend go for Claude Code or Codex. And personally, Claude Code changed my life because I'm not only using it for building apps, I use it for marketing. I use a combination from Claude Code and Codex for example, going from a full podcast episode to a bunch of different clips to creating thumbnails. It's so versatile and you can do a lot of things with it. But again, don't climb the whole ladder. You don't need to know all of this. If you are a coach or you have a bakery or whatever, you could just build a landing page with the easiest tool out there. But I use it on a daily basis, so I'm using Claude Code and Codex. This process that I just shared is exactly the process that I used to build a bunch of different apps. For example, I built an idea generator recently, so if you want to build but you don't know where to start, you can use that. I built a loyalty app or a loyalty program app for small businesses. I built vibecode.fun, which is a hub for vibe coders. I built Sidekick, which is an AI-powered interview assistant. I literally turned our whole podcast process into a podcast studio. And the prd.midcurve.com is a PRD generator where you can put your brain dump that you did in step 1. You put it in there and you get a pretty nice HTML file back with 13 sections with everything that your AI needs to then go and build it. And I recently learned that HTML, for some HTML might mean something, for some it doesn't. I personally like HTML more than Markdown. Markdown is a file, which is a text file that is used by agents. And many people have been saying Markdown is great, and they've been writing their PRDs in Markdown. But I've turned my PRD generator into an HTML generator because I like to see things visually. And if I have a text file, I just scroll through it. I don't really care. But if I see it visually and I see user flows and I see all of these different aspects of the app that I'm going to create, it's much easier for me to give feedback, to talk to my agent, and to hand it over to my agent. So if you want to use my PRD generator, go to prd.midcurve.com. I'll have a slide later with the URL as well. You can make a photo that's a bit bigger, but that's what I use for turning my dump into a PRD. We've turned our idea into a PRD, then we built the MVP, the minimal viable product, and now, maybe even the most important thing to build a successful app is finding users, right? And what used to be the most challenging thing is building an app now became the easiest thing. Now, everyone can build an app, but the hard part is finding users. And that's all, finding users is all based on an offer, if your app is good or if it actually brings value to the app, to the user. So it all starts with the offer, but after the offer or after the app is ready, there's 3 different layers to this, and I call this owned, earned, and paid. You all start with owned media, basically, which is your content, your channels. So if you're creating an app, you can, for free, post on YouTube, on Instagram. Built in public is a big thing in the indie hacker community. People documenting their process, sharing why they're building this app, and you'll be surprised to see how many people actually share a similar problem with you. So share about your problems, share the problems you're solving, and you might find your tribe online, you might find your first users, and this is the first step, the owned media. Then there's earned. Earned is referrals, partners, UGC, and especially UGC is one that's been working very well recently for apps, where you partner with creators, they create accounts, you pay them a little, and they will talk about your app. If you have some virality in your app, works very well. I've had some friends that did very well with UGC, that grew 5x their revenue over 2 months' time with just UGC. And then we have the paid layer. So paid is ads, boosted UGC, paid influencers. Personally, I'm not too big a fan of this for if you're just getting started with apps, but paid is great to actually test and validate your ideas in a way faster way than doing the owned, earned, and then paid. So you could either start with owned and move up the ladder, or you can just parachute straight into paid and validate your idea way faster. So if you like speed, go to paid. If you like to experiment, start at the bottom. So we started today with the idea of we're going to build an app to know who's in town, when, so that we can actually connect and go and do things together. And well, based on those steps that we did, I asked my AI to go and build it, and it's live. So I think if you scan this QR code, you will go to bansconnect.com, and there is a form where you can sign up, drop your dates and interests, and find your people. Now, this has been launched yesterday, and it's the V1. You are user number 1, and the app is not live yet. This is me testing if there's going to be demand. So if there's 20 people signing up today, I might launch this app over the next few days, and we can actually find our people in Bansko and see who's around over the next few weeks. So 25 minutes ago, this was just an idea, and an idea that we were going to run through and build together. And what we learned is that the skill right now is not coding, it's defining what you want and then using the right tools to get from your idea to turning it into reality. And like I said in the beginning, if you can define it, you can build it. So make a photo of this. This is the frame, this is the whole process we walked through. We went from idea, our walk and talk. So, getting out of the way. We went on a walk and talk where we brain dumped our ideas. Then we did dump, define, and build. We dumped our ideas, we defined our ideas in the PRD, and then we built the app. So the PRD was the bridge to go from idea to actual app. And then lastly, grow. And this is a step where I could literally talk another hour or 10 hours about. Like I said, I have a marketing background, and now I'm building things. But the grow is we're going from owned to earned to paid, and on top of the offer. So we start for free, and then we go bottom up. And honestly, let's go back to this one. this is still something I'm trying to figure out as well, because it's all about finding your users and knowing where to go look for your users. You can build an app and there's no users, but what's the value of an app with no users, right? So this is a real hot topic that I would love to explore with the right people. We might do a panel discussion on this as well next week. But I hope that I inspired you here and now to start to turn your ideas into reality and to start using the tools that I've been learning over the last year on how to actually successfully go from idea to app and turning my ideas into reality. So you can go to prd.midcurve.com to steal my PRD generator. You can install Claude Code, plug in the skill there, dump your ideas there, and yeah, ship your apps. And if you ship your apps, I hope you share them on vibecode.fun. This is where you can share your ideas. Other people can then find what you built, leave comments, leave feedback, and I want to build a community where we all help each other, where we all grow together and create cool things and turn those ideas into reality, so they don't just stay on our notes, Apple Notes and Notion, but actually get online and get out into the world, because an idea is only as valuable once it gets out of your head and into the world. So yeah, this was it. This was vibe coding for idea people. I hope all these idea people become vibe coders now. And if you have any questions, drop them in the app, and I'm happy to share my answers.
Thanks for this.
Thank you.
So the first question for you by Oscar is, do you connect all your projects to a GitHub repo?
I do, yes. And I give my AI access to my GitHub, and I just tell it, create a GitHub repo for each and every new idea I have. So it's all there, and it can always get access there. So yeah, I do.
Great. Next question. With vibe coding, how do you tackle requirements that are far from the user perspective? I'm thinking about stability, scalability, integrations, and so on.
I think this question is a valid one, but it comes down to the users. If you don't have users, you don't really need to think about the stability and scalability yet. AI is getting very good at helping you with this, and you can from day one build for scalability. But is it really worth it to put a lot of effort in scalability if you don't have any users? Or is this a problem that you rather tackle later on the journey if you validated that your idea is actually valuable? There might be developers in this room that disagree with this, but I'm all about verify first, move fast, and break things. And if things break, you can always fix it. Yeah, but that's the vibe coding way. It's all about vibes after all.
Yeah, getting out of the perfectionism.
Right? I think I'm a lot of, like I've been there. I've been a perfectionist. Creating content has been a big perfectionist journey for me, and then learning, once I learned, just get your shit out there, things just change and get so much easier.
Makes sense. Next question by Andrew. Can you explain how you manage the cost of building a project?
Well, I started off with a Claude $20 plan, and then I moved to a Claude $100 per month plan, and for me that's enough. But I've been using this like on a daily basis. I max out my limits. Recently I started exploring different tools as well, so a combination of Claude, Codex, and Cursor. So I'm actively trying to see what suits best for me and what stack suits best. I downgraded Claude again, so now I'm on $20 Cursor, $20 Codex, and $20 Claude. I find myself using Cursor not a lot, while Claude Code and Codex are my main go-to tools now. But the landscape is changing so fast that some tools are better 1 month, and then 2 months later another tool comes up, and I guess kind of my job to figure out what tool is best or most useful, because I also have an AI podcast where we discuss these things. So I'm exploring this on a daily basis, and I found that indeed this is an interesting question, because our or most viral clips are the ones where I'm talking about exactly this, of why I moved from Claude to Cursor, or how I'm cutting my costs. So very valid question, but it comes down to what you prefer to use. I was at an AI retreat last week in Malta, and there was a guy who was spending like $50 per day on Lovable credits. I'm like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, get a $100 Claude subscription, and you're going to be able to do way more. So yeah, there's a big gap between people like really knowing what tools to use and making most out of the tools they use.
Perhaps you also need self-discipline to stop yourself from spending all these tokens.
I mean, yeah, but like, it's a funny one because like the token spend and the limits actually make me take a break. if I max out my Claude, I'm like, okay, now I have 2 hours to go to the gym, and otherwise I might not make it to the gym, you know?
Yeah, I find the limits very motivating.
Yeah.
Gotta work. This is about to run out. Okay, next question by Maria. Is there a difference between Claude Code and Codex? Which one is better?
There's a difference, and they both have their own strengths. So I've been using Claude Code most over the last months, and I'm slowly transitioning to Codex, but I find that Claude still has certain strengths, and it has most of my memory. But then Codex, for example, I use for thumbnail generation, image generation, checking up on code that Claude wrote. So I'm using them in parallel, and for example, I'm talking about thumbnail generation. I use Claude for analyzing a full episode, then giving me prompts to generate a thumbnail, and then I tell Codex, hey, look at the things that Claude generated, and then generate those thumbnails. So I'm using them hand in hand, all for some specific different use cases.
This is going to be the last question. Do you think it could be valuable to talk to users before building the MVP to get better insights and avoid building something too generic or wasting time and resources, especially as AI credits become more limited and expensive?
I think it's always valuable to talk to users, but I think it's easier to talk to a user when you can actually have them use an MVP, and then you can see their experience, how they're using the app, and then you can describe what you would change instead of talking about an idea that doesn't exist yet. But yeah, talking to users is great, but AI credits are becoming more expensive. I built Bansko Connect, the idea with a $20 Claude subscription, and it only maxed out my limit once. So there's like how much, like you're not going to spend lots of credits if you're not going to make an extremely complex product. So I think building an MVP you should do before talking to users, but if you already have clients or you have a specific person or persona in mind, then yes, talk to them, share your idea and see what's the feedback, and then incorporate that into your brain dump, or transcribe the conversation you have with this person and put that into the PRD generator as well. So yeah, so the AI has all the context from both the creator and the user.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have more questions, and you can answer them.
Yeah.